All right. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Brooks Burnett, owner of Remodel Reach Marketing, and we're going to talk about direct mail today. And so, direct mail is something that you might hear a lot about. It's something that you might, have maybe tried in the past or been, curious about. Um, but it's something that, I feel like a lot of remodelers have questions about, and it's been in the back of their minds, and they've been wondering, is this useful, is this effective for me and for for our industry? Okay. And the simple answer to that is yes, and maybe not. Okay. And we're going to talk about a specific strategy that I'm sure I'm not the creator of, or, I'm not the original idea, but I've never heard of it before. But we're going to talk about a strategy at the end of this meeting that incorporates direct mail that is strictly for home remodeling contractors to set yourself apart from everyone else. And so if you've been to a couple of my webinars before, probably already have some idea of what it might be about. Because I kind of have a running theme with my agency and kind of my philosophy of, how we do marketing. So let's just dive right in here. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. So what's the table of contents here? So it's very simple. We're going to talk about why it's important, why bother, why take the time, weighing the options here. Is direct mail realistic for remodelers? Because direct mail, well, I'll save it. So pros and cons. We're going to talk about what are the benefits, what are the downsides of it. We're going to be honest with ourselves here. Okay. And so how to run these campaigns. We're not going to go into, how to create a direct mail piece because we'd be here all day. But we're going to go over some simple step-by-step instructions and things to think about and tips when you make your direct mail pieces. And then we're going to talk about that secret strategy at the end, because we kind of have to talk about all these other pieces before we get there. And then we're going to sum it up and have that Q&A session. Okay, so again, think about these questions that if you have any, think about some of those, and you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A. If you have them, you should be able to do that. If not, just think about them, and we will address those when the time comes. So let's keep going. So why listen to me? If it's your first time coming to one of these webinars, I do these once a month. I try my best to do these once a month, the last Friday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern time every single month. So every month, the last Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be here covering a topic. Okay. And so, but why listen to me? So I own a digital marketing agency specifically for home remodeling contractors, and I've been doing digital marketing in general for about 7 years now. And so my agency and the strategies that we do for our clients is only for home remodeling contractors. We take search engine optimization, we take Google Ads, we take all of the different things that we do, direct mail included, and we frame it in a remodeling contractor way, okay, or in a remodeling contractor style. And so we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. So I'm a member of some of the top remodeling associations in the country. So, I talk with remodelers all the time. I work with only remodelers, and so I think I can help you guys out. So let's keep going here. So let's talk about the bigger picture very quickly here, because if you've come to my webinars before, you know that I never ever tell you to put all of your eggs in one basket, right? If you do only direct mail and that's the only strategy you use, yes, it might be effective for you, but for how long? But what if they don't go out, right? What if the company that you create the direct mail pieces for closed down? What else do you have in place to help supplement the leads, supplement, calls, supplement your online presence? What else do you have going on? And so, yes, direct mail can be a great piece and a great addition to your online marketing strategy, but it should not be your only online marketing strategy. If you've been to my webinars before, that's something that you've heard me say 1,000 times. And so, if you want to be the most known remodeler in your area, the best, that have the most authority in your area, you have to do a lot of things at the same time. Okay. And so direct mail is great, but should not be the only thing you do. Now let's hop into direct mail. So why bother? Okay. Why bother with direct mail? Well, so direct mail is a way to target specific cities, or not even cities, neighborhoods, actual individual neighborhoods, even depending on who you go with, the direct mail company you go with, you can get that specific and go directly to your customers. Okay. And so it allows you to do that and give you a chance to kind of put your best foot forward. Okay. And so if someone is, speaking with their neighbor about their experience with you, talking about like, hey, I need to do my bathroom. This company just did your kitchen. What are your thoughts on them? You're kind of relying on that customer to give you a good word in. And, most remodelers, they have lots of referrals, and that's great. But when you go directly to your customers, with direct mail, you're getting in front of them. You're really able to kind of just capture them and showcase your business in a way that is kind of unique. Okay, you're giving them something physical. I've never seen a remodeler do that. I've lived in my house now for 6 years or so. And so I've never gotten a direct mail piece from a home remodeler. That might say something about where I live. But so I don't know if I've never seen or heard of anyone do direct mail that is a home remodeling contractor. I've talked to one or two maybe that has done it, but it's something that is still unique to the industry. Okay, I feel like. And so it gives you a chance to kind of get in front of your customers in a way that they maybe haven't seen before. Okay. And so, people like getting mail now. They don't like the spam mail. No one likes getting spam mail, but I can tell you, I go through every single piece of mail that comes through the mail. And if you have a piece, we're going to talk about different piece styles, direct mail styles, and we're going to go over some templates on how to create a piece and what a good piece looks like. But if it's eye-catching enough and it showcases your business, then it's something that can really jump out. Okay, so direct mail is a good way to supplement your lead flow and then also do the other thing that we're going to talk about later, the secret strategy. Okay, because this is something that I think is better than just lead generation that we're going to talk about here in a second. So, is direct mail realistic? Okay, is it realistic for you? Is it realistic for your company? Okay, and so we're going to go over a couple of pros and cons here, and I want you to decide that for yourself. I think it is realistic. I think it can be done. But you really just have to weigh the positives and negatives here. So first thing, the pros, you can target specific neighborhoods like we mentioned. Google and Facebook are doing away with their targeted income level with their income level targeting. Okay, that used to be something super, amazing. I mean, if you could target people who were in a certain demographic, of income, then that, I mean, that saves you a lot of tire kickers, right? Well, due to discrimination and things like that, whether you agree or disagree, that's kind of they've done away with that. So there's not really a good way to target, income level and things like that. Whereas with direct mail, if you know the neighborhoods that typically have a higher income level, you can target those specific neighborhoods. Okay. And so you talk directly to your customers, you give them something physical. We've kind of already talked about a few of these things here. And yeah, so everything I mentioned in the previous slide, it does work and it can work. But some of the cons are it's one and done. Okay, so that means if you do a direct mail blast, like something like it's called the EDDM, every door direct mail, where you just kind of blast out and send out, postcards to, however many people, 500, homes or whatever the number is, they send them out and it's done. Okay, you got to do that on a monthly basis, or you got to redo it every other month, or it's not something that is continuous. Okay. And so it's one and done. It can be expensive. Now, if you get a job, if you're doing $50,000 bathroom remodels or kitchen remodels and you spend $1,000 on direct mail and you get a $50,000 project, then I'd say it's worth it. Um, but, in terms of what you're spending on a monthly basis for maybe your online ads and things like that, direct mail can be very expensive for the initial blast, right? It can be expensive. So just keep that in mind. It can be pricey. And so they can fall into the other spam pieces. Okay. A lot of people they just kind of get that booklet of spam pieces and other pieces of mail and they just kind of chunk out the whole thing, but that's not very likely. So, just keep that in mind. And so another con, and this kind of goes into should we use direct mail or not? Is it effective or not? Traditional direct mail, so like door hangers, postcards, simple one frame postcard type things, they typically work better for the quote unquote emergency home services. So plumbing, landscaping, tree work, house painters, those type of guys. And so that's great that it works for them. But remodeling, as we know, if you've watched any of my past videos or webinars, we always talk about how remodeling, you have to take remodeling as its own separate, completely unique home service because remodeling is way more expensive typically. It is a luxury most of the time, unless it's emergency like fire, water restoration, things like that. But it's something that has a much longer sales process. It has a lot more to do with can this company provide me the vision that is in my mind of my bathroom, of my new kitchen, rather than, hey, I got a busted pipe and I need a plumber right now. So we're gonna go get on Google and click the first person, call the first person. Oh, direct mail card here. I got to call this person right now. So those people need, the plumbers, the landscapers, the tree work, those people, those guys tend to have a lot more success with direct mail because of the nature of their business. And so this plays into the other strategy that we're going to talk about at the end of this initial presentation. Okay. And so keep this idea in mind that traditional direct mail, door hangers, those things tend to work better for those types of guys, pressure washing, stump grinding, things like that. Okay. So keep that in mind. So now that we've gone over the pros and cons, how do you do traditional, quote unquote, traditional direct mail? Okay, where you're just kind of blasting it out to people. So you want to find a good direct mail partner, a good company that does direct mail, okay, every door direct mail. And so these are like MailChimp, Vistaprint, next day flyers. There's probably 50 of them out there today. And so you can see which ones, do the things that you want them to do. Okay, so for example, next day flyers, if they do, if they can target specific neighborhoods rather than saying, hey, pick your zip code and we're going to send a postcard to every single house, that's something that you want to do, that you might want to consider. Okay. Can they do specific neighborhoods? Can they do very specific locations and things like that? Or are they going to be just more general? What are the customization capabilities? Do they have a customization capability? Can you create your own design? Should you hire a designer? That kind of thing. So determine the type of direct mail. So once you have that, okay, once you know, hey, I'm going to go with MailChimp, I'm going to go with next day flyers, determine what type of piece you want to send. Over here on the side, I've got a list of different types of direct mail pieces. So you got postcards, standard postcards, die cut postcards, so postcards cut into a shape, EDDM postcards, which are typically smaller, flyers, front and back pieces of paper, brochures, trifolds, folders, booklets, and just there's a bunch of different things and ways to go about it, but it depends on the company that you go with, your direct mail partner that you go with. For remodelers, I would recommend to go with the higher end, more expensive pieces. Okay, so this is going to be your brochures, your booklets, things like that. Because especially if you are a high, quote unquote, high end remodeler, design build company, rather than, just a handyman service, essentially, you're going to want to stand out. Okay, you want to stand out. If you have the same size card, the same type of card as the pressure washing company that they just got a card for, last week, and you're a high-end luxury home remodeler, that's going to, that might not sit well with, I mean, they're not going to be angry at you, but it's not going to like it's not going to compute, or it might not compute in the person's head that like this is a high-end remodeler. Whereas if it's a flyer, brochure, trifold, things like that, now that's going to stand out a little bit more. And so that kind of plays into, are you willing to invest to see if that works? Okay. And so how do you want your business to be portrayed? That's kind of what the idea here is for determining the type and the size, right? Door hangers, small pieces, typically for the roofers, tree guys, those guys that I mentioned before. So, door hangers, small postcards, things like that, and so I would err on the side of safety and just go with the more expensive. So you can showcase more of your work at the end of the day. You're trying to get more before and afters, more, high end or high def pictures onto this piece here because we want them to hire you. So include lots of pictures that match your brand, okay? Include a picture of yourself, or if you're not the owner of the company, include a picture of the owner or a team picture or a office picture, something that is trying to build rapport with your customers, okay? And so, lastly, track the phone number. If you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you are tracking it properly. And so what you do is you go to CallRail, you go to a company like Call Tracking Metrics. There's a couple of them out there where you can buy a tracking number. It's only like a few cents to buy. And so you put the tracking number on the piece, on the direct mail piece. And so every time someone calls that number, it comes directly to your office, but it tracks the call as coming from the direct mail piece. And so you have to make sure that you're tracking whether it's working or not. Because if you send out 500 pieces and, you get 20 calls, let's just say, in the week that you sent it out, but you're not tracking anything, how do you know where those calls came from? You don't, okay, unless you ask the person, but then most people, they don't know anyway. And so that's a very unreliable method of tracking leads, asking people, hey, how'd you hear about us? And so, but anyway, track the phone number, just take those initial steps. It might take a little bit longer, but it's worth it. And you want to make sure that you see that this works or not, so you know whether you want to invest in it again. Okay. And so these are just a couple of ideas here for your direct mail strategy. Now, so I hope that made sense. That was pretty quick, pretty basic, but we are going to get into the other piece, the strategy that I use and talk about and recommend people or remodelers use direct mail for now. Okay. And so that is what I call next step direct mail. Okay. If you saw my video webinar, I used to talk a little bit more about this kind of strategy. I kind of reserve it for, I don't want just anybody knowing this, because this is, something that's could be a game changer for you and for your business. And so, but anyway, so next step mail is a strategy of direct mail that is essentially the opposite of what all of what we were talking about before is. Okay, so it's a strategy that is for reaching out to and sending pieces to customers who already have expressed interest in your company. So we're not generating leads, we are sending direct mail pieces to leads you already have, to leads you're already getting. So you're getting referrals, you're getting search engine optimization leads, you're getting leads through calls, you're getting people who are showing you that they are interested. They filled out a form, they called, they scheduled an initial estimate, whatever it may be, whatever that first step is for you, we send out a piece after that first step was taken. And so this is one piece at a time. Okay, so this is one piece at a time. If you get 5 leads a day, then you're sending out 5 direct mail pieces a day. And so yes, this is time consuming, and yes, this would be, a potential roadblock. But if you want to close more deals and make more sales, this is a way to do that, or a way that will greatly help you to do that. So let's talk a little bit more about this in depth. So we are sending a direct mail piece to your customer, to your prospect, whoever is interested, after they show interest in your company. So again, they submit a form on your website, they give you a call, they talk about their project. You're sending them the piece after this happens, not before. You're sending it after. And so this is a strategy not to bring in the leads, but like I said, we're trying to close the leads that you're already getting, that you already have. Okay. So, like we said before, remodeling is a very typically a pretty long sales process, right? So, you've got a lot of going back and forth, sending estimates, going out, taking measurements, going back and forth, negotiating, taking initial payments, taking design fees, things like that. You've got all these moving parts in your in your sales process. And so this direct mail piece is there to help give you a leg up on the competition, and to give people an idea of what it looks like to work with you. Okay? And so here's what it looks like. So lead comes in. You capture their mailing address. So if that means on your forms on your website, putting street number, city, state, zip, then do that. Okay, because we want to capture that information. If you're on the phone, when you're getting their information, ask them what's your mailing address. Grab that information from them. If they say, no, I'm not giving you my mailing address, how are you going to go out and do the estimate? They're not interested anyway. Okay, so you're going to be getting that information anyway. Get it up front. And so that way, once you get off the phone, once they submit their contact form, you can go ahead and send them a direct mail piece. You can send them a piece welcoming them to your company. Okay. So you send the direct mail piece, send them your welcome mail to your customer, welcoming them to your business. And then you're going to start your journey just like you always do. Okay. Just like you're not changing anything else. This direct mail piece is just going out. Hey, I called this company 2 days ago, and here is a welcome piece in my mail. I'm holding it right here. I submitted a form on their website, 3 days ago, and then here they are sending me a piece in the mail. Oh, cool. Here's pictures, and things like that. Okay, that's the idea. And so we're trying to stand out. We're trying to stand out from your competitors, stand out from the crowd. And so this is a way, I believe, that does that. Okay. And so you may have done this, someone may have done this, but I don't know anyone who has. Okay. And so this is something that I feel like you can do pretty easily. You buy some bulk direct mail pieces, you design it, take some time, buy it in bulk, buy some stamps, and just pop it into your mailbox. Flip depending on how big it is, you flip it flip the flag up, and then they take it off every time someone submits a form. Every time someone calls in and is interested, not people who aren't interested, but someone who is a legitimate lead, send them a piece of mail. So what do you include on these pieces of mail? So obviously you want to include as many pictures as possible, as good, high quality of pictures as possible. But you're not sending them just a basic, you know, thing. You're understanding that they already are interested. They've already contacted you. So you're going to say something like, "Hey, thank you so much for your interest. Here's what to expect when working with us. Thanks for giving us a call. Thanks for whatever you want to say, but you're already have the understanding that this person has already reached out to you. They're not someone brand new. They already are interested. And so, some type of picture, your logo, just make it noticeable. Okay. And so, this is for like some kind of trifold or something like that. I think I saw one time that had the option of it was like a small mini booklet or something. And so, there's three pieces here, but you can kind of take from this what you will, And so, you're limited by size. I understand that it might be hard, it might be difficult, but just use the pictures that you have, use the best quality pictures that you have. If you focus on outdoor living spaces, if you focus on deck building, patio construction, porch remodeling, then you're going to want to put that. If you focus on bathrooms, then put put more bathrooms. If you do outdoor kitchens, or if you want to focus on one specific, you know, uh, service, then obviously highlight that service. Okay, it's not too difficult, and so you're giving very basic information, again, showing pictures, just giving very basic information about your company here with these initial couple of pages. Now, the second or the third page, rather, or your information page, this is where it gets a little more strategic. Okay. And so this is fake. These are all stock images except for me there. Um, and so here is where you kind of you need to add a little bit more customization. Okay, and so the picture this. Think about this. Someone has already they're already interested in your company, and they've reached out to you, and they've reached out to maybe a couple of other remodeling contractors, like three more, let's just say, to get quotes, right? And so you get something in the mail that has a picture of the owner and a picture of the head team, the main team that is going to be leading the project. Okay. That is going to make you stand out way more than the guys who are just sending out estimates. Hey, we'll come out there, take our measurements, and then we'll just send you an estimate. You get something in the mail that says, hey, your property is in good hands. Here's the team. Here are the next steps. Our estimator will reach out to you to schedule your meeting. Our head designer will reach out to discuss your vision. Your estimate will be sent out for review and follow-up call scheduled. I just made this up, but that's the idea. What does your process look like? What does your sales process look like? I've got one client who does his sales calls through Zoom meetings. He does not go to the person's property. I know that might seem crazy, but that works for him. That's how he does it. So he would put this in here, right? Number three, we'll schedule your Zoom call with our owner to discuss your project or whatever. And so make it personal. And then, I recommend putting in pictures of your team. Okay. I recommend that because when you do that, you're saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what to expect. Here's who's going to come out and meet you. Here's who's going to come into your home. This is what they look like. Here's who's coming out. And so it just helps to build that rapport, build that trust. Okay. And so I designed this, this three page trifold here. I designed this in, It took me about an hour maybe, and so this is something that again might not take a lot of time. It might take time day to day, might just add an extra step, but if it carries people to the finish line or helps you to stand out more, then I think it's going to be worth it. Okay. And on top of that, it doesn't really cost anything except for the initial bulk buying the direct mail pieces, which doesn't cost very much, and the stamps. And so it's not like you're doing EDDM where you're spending thousands of dollars sending out direct mail pieces. This is a very different strategy where you're sending out one at a time, to people who are already interested rather than bulk sending out direct mail pieces. And so that is the idea. That's the strategy. And so I hope that that made sense, and I hope that that was clear on, there's really two ways to approach it, direct mail. There's the bulk send out, lots of pieces, lots of, going out to everybody or, strategically choosing neighborhoods and things like that, which can be beneficial. But I think something like this would be more beneficial because most remodelers, they're not hurting necessarily for leads most of the time, right? They're getting enough calls, but maybe there's some other things. Maybe they're not closing enough. Maybe they're not, maybe they've got some other holes in their sales process and things like that. And so this is a way to, or that, that next step mail is a way to, really try and stand out and just be effective there. So in conclusion, direct mail can be effective. It can be an effective form of lead generation, but it should not be your only lead generation form. Okay. Um, and so just find the easiest direct mail to company to work with. If you want to do that, just go through and find what they do, find how they price, and find out if main thing, do they have a design feature? Can you design and create your own? Or uh, or do they have the ability to target specific neighborhoods rather than just zip codes? Because, zip codes, you can get a bunch of different houses there, and you're just spending money on leads that you don't want. And so direct mail may be more useful for remodelers after the leads come in, like we mentioned before. So that might be a little bit more useful than just blanket um, sending out direct mail pieces. And so it's just kind of two ways to look at it. You can try both, you can try one, or you can try none. There's really, this is here for your benefit and to give you ideas about what you might want to do with your company here. So I hope that that made sense, and I hope that was clear. A little bit quick of a presentation here, about 30 minutes or so. So that's good, but that is it. So thank you so much for watching. It is Q&A time. If you are here and you would like to, if you have the questions, if you have some, go ahead and put it in here. Put it in the Q&A section. You can put it in the chat. Um, either or works well. So again, my name is Brooks Burnett. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. If you need some help with this, or if you need some help with your online marketing as a whole, not just with direct mail, but if you need some help with search engine optimization, coming up in Google Maps, need a new website design, things like that, we'd be more than happy to help you out there. So you can give me a call, you can send us an email, or visit my website